Okay, this is the January 27th work session. There aren't any agenda items on council's agenda, so we'll go right to the mayor.
Thank you, Kathy. Good evening. First is a resolution asking for you to authorize officials to designate the playground area at Barney Farms as the Nathan Gray Playground. I think we all know the story behind this. Young
It's a great idea, Mayor.
Thank you, Mike. Young 8-year-old Nathan Gray battled cancer for 6 years. That was a favorite place for him to play when he was feeling well enough to do that. So I'm hoping that we are all on the same page, and I ask for your approval.
One other thing with the mayor, are we going to erect a sign?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, what we're planning on, if you don't mind, I'll elaborate, Beth, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Our plan is to look at all 18 parks in the city of Wilkes-Barre, and some of them have equipment that should be replaced. We're going to replace a lot of that equipment, but also at that park, we'll be replacing some equipment that needs to be repaired. And with your approval, I'd like to construct a sign designating this park as a Nathan Gray Memorial Park.
Good idea.
Okay, any other questions on that one? Okay. Authorizing the proper city officials to file a business plan and application to Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for a redevelopment assistance capital program grant, the amount of $2 million for assistance with King's College Times Leader Building project. Now, this was already approved, but this is the final stage of it, which is what we have to do to complete this.
Is this a match too, Mayor, or no?
Our caps are match.
Okay.
So they'll be investing a sizable amount of money into that building.
Okay.
Third, authorizing the proper city officials to enter into a lease purchase agreement for 2 new 2022 Mac 20 cubic yard Cobra Series rear load garbage packers. The equipment will be purchased from Triple Cities Mac through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Co-Stars program. Total of $359,870.72. Anyone have any questions on that?
Just quick on that too, Mayor. Lease purchase, are we gonna lease them, or are we gonna purchase them, or do we lease them first and then we purchase them? How does that work?
Butch, do you mind? I'll ask Butch to answer that.
Okay,
He's the Director
sure.
of Operations.
How that works, we, through the bank, it's called a lease purchase. You have to buy, after you lease it for a period of time, you have to buy the piece of equipment. It's just a matter of financing. It's a better financing package when you lease it than when you buy it outright.
Okay.
These trucks, one thing I want to explain to everybody, these trucks are replacing 2 Packers that are over 15 years old. That we'll probably have to take out of service at some point soon. So, there is a need, and we find the Max, we've done with Max, you probably all know that now by now. That allows us to have about 7 of them. They hold up, the warranties are the best you can possibly get in the market. But that's how that works. Finance is,
Okay.
it's a lease package, and then you have to purchase it in the lease.
How about the ones that you think you're gonna get rid of? Do we sell them, or do you put them up for auction, or?
They'll be in auction at some point, when we have enough built up to auction out, we will. One of the trucks that we're replacing will still have some use, we'll use that as a spare until that's no longer able to be inspected.
So talking about vehicles, how about street sweepers? Do you think in the future, maybe Mayor, I don't know if you can answer this, or Butch, do you think maybe in the future we could take a look at getting another street sweeper possibly?
We can all use another sweeper.
We did purchase, as you
Yeah,
recall,
yeah.
a vacuum truck, and that's also
Yeah,
a
yeah,
street sweeper.
yeah.
And then we have another street sweeper that's not that old. So we do have 2 that we're utilizing, but also Mountain Valley Sanitary Authority, with the help of Mr. Belisco, we do secure help from the Sanitary Authority, and they periodically come through the city streets also. So it's ongoing,
Okay, so
John.
we have 1 sweeper and 1 vac, correct?
But the vacuum truck is also a sweeper.
Oh, that's also a sweeper?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Which, how many Packers do we have? 12. With these 2, we use them every day. There's only 1 Packer we don't use every day, and that's one of the oldest ones we have.
Okay, thank you.
Can I add one more thing, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Butch has to leave, he has an appointment, but there's something I'd like him to pass on to council before he leaves, if that's okay.
Sure.
We're talking about the creeks, and I know you've all had questions about the debris in the creeks and so forth. We've actually started that cleanup. I'd like Butch to elaborate, if you don't mind,
Okay.
before he leaves.
Yeah, that's fine. Just come up to the microphone, please.
As everybody remembers, back in September, we had a tropical storm, Ida. It was declared a disaster by FEMA. And shortly after the event, we took it upon ourselves to remove debris near structures. And that was all we did. In the event there was another storm, the structure would be free. Since then have hired engineers to analyze the amount of debris in each creek. Some have very little, some have a lot. Solomon Creek does have a lot, so does Mill, and so does Laurel Run Creek. Very shortly, those bid packages will be out. We will have contractors in the creeks to start removing this debris. Fortunately, that it's funded through the FEMA process, it will be no charge to the city of Wilkes-Barre. So it'll happen shortly. It takes a while to get this done, especially when you have 5 creeks to consider. The ones we already targeted are the one up Empire Street there, Colebrook Creek, Laurel Run Creek, Mill Creek, Solomon Creek.
Okay.
And it's a lot of work. It's administered through our department. Jay Delaney, Chief Delaney is the EOC, so he'll be overseeing this. But the good news again is that FEMA will fund this. There were some other questions, I think regarding the river, the Kirby Park natural area. We have been in there. The Public Works employees have been in there to eliminate some of the trees that were blocking the way, whatever it's a cartway or walkway. We left the other debris there. We plan on going back in the spring, and at the direction of the Riverfront Parks Committee, whatever they decided for us to do, we will do. They seem to think leaving down trees there are a good thing. I agree. Vinnie Catrone is one of the highest regarded foresters in the area, teaches at Penn State. So we will go, their guidelines we will follow very closely. So if anybody has any questions on that, I'm just saying that's the best way to go. Riparian barriers are there for a reason. If it was an issue, I'm sure the Army Corps would address that when they did the dike and the levee system. So that's how we're going to leave it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Butch.
And I believe I forwarded on to all council members a letter I received from someone that's an expert in birds and wildlife. Remember, I sent that to you last month. And their recommendation is to leave it the way it is. So we're trying to provide as much information as we can. And we did meet with Vito Catrone and other people. Also, we have been meeting with FEMA, looking at getting some monies back from the September 1st Ida storm. So believe me, it's ongoing, and we're trying to secure as much funds as we can, but we also want to make sure that that side of Kirby Park is done the right way. We want to make sure it's the proper mitigation for flooding, and we're getting reports that the way that we're doing it is the way to go. So we're always open to new ideas, suggestions, but just want to give you an update. So thank you for letting me do that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, council presentations. Councilman Barrett?
No, the only thing I wanted to comment, and the mayor touched on it briefly, the city's emergency operations plan, we all got a copy of. And I just want to commend the city for staying on top of that, and especially Chief Delaney. It's a rather extensive plan that is so very important. You were talking about flooding a few minutes ago, but it's an all hazard plan, and it really takes a lot of work, and it's something you just can't put on the shelf and forget about it for 5 years. Everything in it changes, and there's a wealth of information in there that's available to all of us as well. So compliments to Chief Delaney and everybody else who's involved in the preparation of this plan. We really appreciate it. We especially appreciate it when something does happen, as we know it will eventually. And it's nice to know that we're on top of that. Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Brooks?
Thank you. I think most of you might know I'm on the Luzerne County Convention and Visitors Bureau. And you might have seen this wonderful photograph of the train station that was taken by a friend of mine last night. And I just want to congratulate George Albert. I think he was only 1 month behind in considering supply issues that are going on with COVID and supply chain stuff, it's pretty remarkable that they're be moving in there. And if you haven't seen this photo, I just look at the stats. 93,000 people saw this photo, and it's been less than 24 hours. And you can go online and see the amazing comments about exactly the right direction to go for historic preservation. So I'm really glad that that's on its way, and they're going to be opening on February 1st.
If you don't mind, I'll just add that, speaking with Mr. Albert, he is donating a portion of that building for our Planters Peanuts Museum. So he's giving that to the city, free of charge. And in probably the next 6 months, we'll start looking for people to have articles on display there. It's the Wilkes-Barre City Planters Peanuts Museum, because it started here in Wilkes-Barre. So thankfully to Mr. Albert, he's also
Yeah.
going to be giving us space for that.
Fantastic. Yep. Thank you. Thank you.
Councilman Marconi?
I do have a couple for Charlie. Charlie, East Main Street, near the Miners Mills Garage, actually right across the street from the Miners Mills Garage. There's quite a bit of trees in that area. I don't know if it's our land or if it's someone else's, but resident contacted me about them. I took a ride up. They're really, really leaning. Sooner or later, they're gonna end up on the road. Perhaps maybe even on someone's vehicle. I just wonder if we can send someone up there, take a look at it, or if it's not ours, contact whoever it is to just take a look at that before something happens there. And also, I sent you guys information about 649 North Main Street. Do you have any update on that? I just got multiple complaints from residents and businesses. I got hammered over the weekend over that. I know I sent some information to you guys. Man, I'll tell you, neighbors told me that they called police, and police said that they couldn't chase the quads. Okay, I get it, but what's the plan for that? It's not just up in my area. I know there's an issue with quads, I would say, throughout the city. One of the residents was telling me that, there was antifreeze and brake fluid and stuff, oil and stuff running into the drains. There was an NTA letter sent out on March 15th, and then we're sending another one out just recently, a couple days ago. When do we get to the next step? Because for me, this residence, I've been complaining about this residence for over a year now. We've been there several times. Do we need to change the ordinances around, Charlie? Do we need to reword them? Does council need to take a look at these and maybe make new ones?
Well, my understanding was that the NTA, I remember it in March, we NTA'd it. They have a period of time to resolve it. They did resolve it.
Right.
Now it's back again. We have to NTA, we have to follow by citations. We have multiple properties like this where people do just enough to keep out of the citation mode. And the time periods on NTAs, I'm sure Maureen will tell you, Attorney Collins, the courts require notice and opportunity to resolve before we can go in and file the formal citations. And people know that, and they do just enough to keep out of the situation. The quads are a whole different issue. They're in police enforcement,
Yeah.
and they're probably, they're just really difficult to deal with because they're sporadic. And you have to be there, and the police can't be there every time it happens. So that's an ongoing problem.
So then, let me just make sure I understand this. If we're sent to a residence and there's an issue with garbage, we issue an NTA.
Mm-hmm.
They clean it up. 4 months later, it's the same situation. There's garbage there again. We have to send another NTA. There's no next
Talk to
step.
the solicitor, but even if you couldn't even if we said that, I think I wasn't involved in it, but like the 3-strike ordinance, you can't assume. You have to keep giving notice and opportunity to resolve. The courts will not allow you to just say, oh, last time this is the second time you did this bad thing, then we automatically could do things. Courts won't allow that. So we're sort of stuck in this basically whack-a-mole game that happens.
Charlie, what about a quality of life ticket immediately on the spot? Can we use that?
Well, you can issue those, but those are less, there's less of a charge there. So you could issue a quality of life, that's $100, but then they do the same thing. You'd have to go through the same process if you're gonna go down to the citation level to get the bigger fines. They're just, it's just a difficult process, and we have any number of properties and poor property owners that we do periodically. I will say, in my 2 years that I've been here, it's been getting significantly decreased. The numbers of chronically problematic properties are much lower than they were before.
So, for my district, I have to agree with you on that. However, on the flip side of that, the issues that I think I send into the administration, it's the same properties all the time. I don't know, with other districts or not.
Same thing.
Yeah.
All
But,
the same problem.
I mean, we have to come up with something. I don't know if we have to look at the tenants, if we need to hold them more accountable, if we could or if we can't, or, again, maybe drawing up different ordinances. But we need to really do something about this. I mean, I know you guys are caught in the middle, but what we're doing now, it's just simply not working.
Maureen, could you look into that as a city solicitor and see if there's other options that we may be able to come up with?
Sure, Mayor, yes.
And then maybe we can report back to council at the next meeting if there are some things that our city solicitors are recommending. We want to stop this as much
Yeah.
as you do.
Oh, yeah.
Believe me, we do. And that's why I'm meeting with you tomorrow.
Yeah.
So,
No.
we'd ask you to please do that, and hopefully we'll have something else, maybe, I don't know, if it's new orders or whatever, but something that we can use. Would that be okay?
That'd be fine. Thank you.
Also, we're meeting tomorrow, so
Yes.
if there's a couple of properties that you want to take a look at, I'll be available.
Thank you. Thanks, Maureen, too. That's all I have.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Yeah, I do agree with you that that's something that we definitely need to, I know we've had conversations about that before, but we need to really get a handle on it. Right now is kind of a slow time of year in terms of turning in properties. A lot of the complaints that we turn in are related to high grass and weeds, so.
Right.
But I suspect when it gets to the spring and summer again, we'll be turning in the same ones that we've been turning in, so.
Maybe we'll have something in place by that time.
Yes, definitely.
That'd be
Believe
great.
me, I want one as much as you
Yeah.
folks do.
Okay. Councilman Belisco.
I had a bunch of potholes to come in tonight. But I've noticed, Butch, guys were telling me that they're out there filling some holes. And it's two of the potholes that I know were done, were two of them that I was gonna, actually, not expecting it to be even done at this time of year, but just to place it in there. And another one is the same guy that talked to you about New Alexander Street, came to me and I said, that's already on my agenda, from Charles to Peach Lane. It's terrible in that section. But thanks, y'all out there. I didn't get around to the other potholes, but now I have to wait and see if I can get around and see if it's done already, But,
You had two pretty good ones, or actually, we had two pretty good ones on Wood Street that we patched, and we just
Yeah.
spoke about that this week, and they were repatched. I mean, they're pretty good ones.
yeah, there was some down on Cary Avenue too, going down
By-
towards,
by- by
there was
the-
two
where-
sinkholes,
Yeah.
If I may, Mayor, we did patch it. It's not the best time to patch when it's cold like this. They'll probably be out in a day or two, but better weather's coming tomorrow, and into early next week, so we'll be out effectively with
Yeah.
several crews.
They're starting to pop all over now again, It's a shame. Thank you. That's all.
And then the only thing that I have, I'm sure everyone's aware of the fire at Genetti's, and all of the people that have been displaced there. I know that they were given, the people who were displaced were given a very small amount of money, in an attempt to help them, get back on their feet and find alternative housing. But I was wondering if we could look into possibly, if there's any way that we could use American Rescue Plan funds to help those people. Or if we could work with another organization such as CEO to try to help those people get housing somewhere else, because I know that, we're kind of in the middle of a housing crisis now where people are struggling to find affordable housing. So I can imagine that those people are really in a tough position.
Well, that's a good question. As a matter of fact, Bill Jones from the United Way reached out to the social agencies that could help, and including the city of Wilkes-Barre. There's a discussion tomorrow with several agencies to see what help could be issued. You're right, I think they received 500 and some
Yes.
dollars, which doesn't go very far, you're right. But those agencies will be working in, and also, with the owner of the property. We did issue some information to the owner of the property today after an inspection. So, believe me, we want to get these people housing. I don't want them being displaced like anyone else does. So, that meeting tomorrow may be fruitful in offering some help through the human resource agencies. You all know that with your approval, we issued about $1 million to these human service agencies, if you recall that, through United Way. So a lot of those agencies are on this call tomorrow, or Zoom meeting tomorrow, and we'll see what comes up. I mean, if you'd like, what we can do is give you an update after that meeting. We could send you some information by email if something, 'cause I know we're all passionate about that.
Yes, please, I would appreciate that.
I'll be happy to send it off to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay,
Couple minutes.
we're going to adjourn for a couple of minutes before our regular session.
All right.
Please stand for the pledge. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty and everlasting God, who presides over all things in heaven and earth, come and preside over these deliberations so that those that make the decisions may be guided by your wisdom.
Good evening and welcome to the regular session of council. Chairperson is the presiding officer of the meeting. The following are examples of important council rules. They are not intended to be a complete list. Adhere as closely as possible to the 5-minute speaker presentation time limit. All remarks shall be addressed to the council and not to any individual member thereof. The chairperson shall preserve order and decorum, prevent attacks on personalities, and determine all points of order. And finally, in order to be heard by all, when members of the administration are speaking, please stand up and speak into the microphone. We'll have roll call. Mr. Barrett,
Here.
Mr. Brooks,
Here.
Mr. Marconi,
Here.
Mr. Belishko,
Here.
Mrs. Gilbert McBride,
Present.
and also in attendance is Mayor George Brown, Assistant City Attorney Maureen Collins, Administrator Charlie McCormick, IT Department Phil Benson, Assistant City Clerk Tracy Smith, and Administrative Assistant Lisa Sanfilippo.
Okay, at this time, if anyone wants to call in on pending legislation, you may do so. 570-580-1176.
Hi, please state your name and where you're calling from.
Yes, this is Jerry Reisinger. I'm calling from Kingston.
Dr. Reisinger, is this on pending legislation?
No, it isn't.
Okay, if you could call back when you're prompted for general comment.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Hi, please state your name and where you're calling from.
John Tosky, Wilkes-Barre.
John, is this on pending legislation?
Yeah, it's on pending legislation.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'm not going to say that you guys should vote no for this grant, match grant or whatever it is for Wilkes University, but I really think you guys should table it. And, you guys need to use your parliamentary powers or some kind of parliamentary tactics to get them to raise their voluntary contribution. Because, we give it, us allowing them to apply for $2 million in grant money again, well, we only get $100,000. The math doesn't add up. And you guys could table this grant, till the next meeting, and then use some kind of, ask them for more money so we could, ask them for more voluntary contributions. And I think that would be, I think you got to stand up to the schools and tell them that we're not going to be compliant with you guys getting money unless you guys are going to contribute more to the city. I think it was a bad move for the city to sell them that building back for $1 when we could have gotten more money out of them there. And I think you guys should use some sort of tactics to get more money out of them. And I think a way to do it would be to table this measure until they would be willing to give more money, because, they're going to get $2 million out of this. Why do we have to give them help them get every grant they want and only get $100,000? That's 20 years of what they give to us. They could pay for that themselves if we didn't help them get this grant. So I think you guys should just table that grant until they're willing to contribute more to the city. And one other thing, I challenge anybody to show us in the budget where us helping them with these grants, helps out in the budget. I need to see it in numbers. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick comment on that, please.
Sure.
John, I certainly agree with you 100% on the voluntary contribution should be higher. I think both Kings and Wilkes should definitely take a look at that, and hopefully both establishments will give more. I just want to say I agree. I agree 100% on that one.
Yep.
Thank you.
Agreed with your agreement.
Thank you.
Okay.
Please state your name and where you're calling from.
Yes, I'm calling from Kingston.
Dr. Reisinger, you'll have to call back. This is an on pending legislation, right?
I know,
Okay. Okay, you could go ahead and read it.
Okay, so we did get one email today. I don't know if everybody received it. It's from Sam Troy. It says regarding the purchase of the dump trucks for approximately $360,000, I'm just wondering, since this money cannot be taken out of the ARP funding, how the mayor will justify the spending of this money for something that is not absolutely necessary. Can the $360,000 be put to better use? Does the city really need 2 dump trucks? Couldn't it get by with 1? How can our city afford the expenditure in these desperate financial times? Regarding the King's College project, I'm asking council to table the approval of the funding until King's comes forward with a higher pilot. As far as I know, they own more than $50 million worth of property in the city, and right now their contribution to the city's treasury is a mere $100,000. Why does with City of Wilkes-Barre continuously go out of its way to help King's College go forward with various projects such as the streetscape when they contribute virtually nothing in return? Here is an institution that is extremely well financed, yet they always have their hands out for government assistance. What is the justification for the city going out of its way once again to help King's? What is wrong with this picture? Also, in the list of stipulations on the agenda, there is one line item that says the public was informed of this project previously and its effects on the community. This is the first I've ever heard of this project. It has really blindsided me and probably everyone else. So I think that this statement is very misleading and that there should be a formal hearing before any approval is given to this project.
Make a comment.
Sure.
And we've been down this road before with the pilots and Kings and Wilkes, and yes, $100,000 is not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things given their operating budget, but that's not all they contribute to the city, and we all know that. They've both have hundreds of employees, thousands of students that are in the city here, contributing to not only the financial picture of the city, but also the well-being of the city. Both institutions are not going anywhere. They're landmarks, they're bookends to the downtown, and they beautify the city, they contribute money in these projects that they do in their immediate areas. And again, going back to the hundreds of employees that are working here in the city, we all know what that equates to, and the thousands of students and their families and everybody else that are here, visiting the businesses in the city and contributing to the overall economy of the city. So, yeah, $100,000. But again, the word voluntary is in there too. And I'm not in favor of holding them hostage and stifling projects that are going to better the city as well, simply because we want them to contribute more. And we would like them to, there's no doubt about that, but we have to look at the big picture as well. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other call?
You got another one?
Hi, this is Jason Carr from Saylorsburg, Pennsylvania. Regarding the purchase of the 2 garbage trucks by the mayor, the city had to borrow $2.3 million to balance the 2022 budget. Does the mayor feel confident that the city is going to end on a balanced budget with this additional spending? And was that taken into consideration when the budget was made this year? I guess secondly, I appreciate Councilman Barrett's dissertation on what King's College does for the city, which I don't believe is much, my personal opinion. But King's College actually owns $57 million of assessed property in the city of Wilkes-Barre. It has a over $150 million endowment. And reading through the documentation today, I was wondering when the city held the documentation today stated that there was a public hearing on this RCAP grant through the city from the state of Pennsylvania, but I could not locate any meeting date or time when that took place. And I was just wondering if the mayor could possibly respond at all. Thank you.
Do you have any comments? Okay. All right. If there's anyone else who wishes to comment on pending legislation, they could call it 570-580-1176. We can move into a vote.
Okay, so we're going to vote on the Barney Farms, the Nathan Gray Playground resolution, and the garbage packer resolution, and the minutes as a consent, and we'll do the King's College separate. So we need a motion and a second on the Barney Farms, the packer, and the minutes all together as a consent. Motion by Mr. Belishko.
Second.
Second by Mr. Brooks. Mr. Barrett.
Yes.
Mr. Brooks.
Yes.
Mr. Marconi.
Yes.
Mr. Belishko.
Yes.
Mrs. McBride.
Yes.
And on the King's College, that's Belishko and Brooks. On the King's College resolution, we need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Brooks,
Second.
second by Mr. Barrett. Mr. Barrett?
Yes.
Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Mr. Marconi?
Yes.
Mr. Belishko?
Yes.
And Mrs. McBride?
No.
This is Brooks. Okay, so I don't know if you want to do presentations again.
Okay, council presentations. Councilman Barrett?
Just one other comment, it slipped my mind a few minutes ago. We appreciate the public announcements that the administration put out in reference to the removal of snow from sidewalks after the last snowstorm. I think there was a difference, but there are numerous properties that were not addressed from that storm 2 weeks ago, and I didn't know if we made notifications or we've done anything about those people that didn't choose to ignore cleaning their sidewalks.
Yeah, Bill, we issued 25 citations for people who did not clear their sidewalks. And we're going to continue to do that as long as we have these storms. We have people out, checking residences. So the first initiation was 25 citations that were issued.
I'm glad, that's wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councilman Brooks?
Nothing to add from both board.
Okay.
Thanks.
Councilman Marconi?
Nothing further.
Councilman Belisco? Okay. I don't have anything further. Okay. At this time, if anyone would like to call in for general public presentations, the phone number is 570-580-1176.
All right, Jerry Reisinger again, calling at the right time.
Go ahead, Dr. Reisinger.
Yes, I don't know if you received any information that I sent to council today.
Yes, we received that.
There's 3 sheets that I sent.
We received your email earlier. You could go ahead.
All right, I'd like to comment on the information that I sent. One article is about the Army Corps report on the overgrowth in the flood channels, especially Kirby Park. And another email that I sent was from a firm that restores homestead parks in the country, and they would love to have a meeting with the mayor and take a tour of the park. And the third email that I sent was an email from Senator Casey's office, who took a tour of the riverfront several years ago with members of the Seneca Nation, and their wishes to see the park cleaned up in a more respectful way. And I was hoping that maybe the mayor could review those papers and set up a meeting for a tour of the riverfront. He promised that he would meet with me. I've called his office many times to try to set up a meeting, but I've never had a return call. And I really appreciate what he's doing with the park systems in the city, especially Barney Farms. But if he doesn't restore Kirby Park riverfront, that park was designed to take pressure off the South Wilkes-Barre Curve by one of the most brilliant architects in the world at the time. And it was not a zoo. It was a beautiful cultural place that had a wading pool, fountains, greenhouses, a band shell gazebo, and a beautiful family picnic ground with a swimming beach. And this is part of our culture that we've lost, and it's turned into a neglected, overgrown flood threat to the community. And it's similar to what happened in Solomon's Creek. I know when they had the flood there this spring, I saw the family on TV and how devastated and terrified they were to almost die in their basement. And that whole problem was caused by the overgrowth in Solomon's Creek. And I met with the family the day after that happened to see how they were doing and how the house was, totally devastated. And I called Senator Udicak's office and made sure that he took a tour of the site. And because they had told me that for years they've been complaining to the city that Solomon's Creek is overgrown and the debris causes floods. And this is the same situation that was at Mill Creek, that Mr. Gibbons, who is retired from the Army Corps of Engineers, lobbied the city and Mr. Friday to clean up that section. And the same situation exists in Kirby Park. And the Army Corps has stated this in 2015. And I don't know why we can't get together and take a tour of the Army Corps and review this problem, because unfortunately, South Wilkes-Barre is going to be in the eye of this whole mess if that levee breaks. And supposedly, the South Wilkes-Barre levee system is the weakest part of the whole system. And I was just hoping that the mayor would finally respond to me and meet with some people that I've organized. One of the people is Bert Fulto, who built the levee in Kirby Park in the mid-'80s, and it was restored because the Army Corps was worried that it was going to erode at the base. And Bert took a tour of the riverfront with me several weeks ago and wants to get involved in touring and cleaning up the riverfront. And I think now's the time, with the money that we have coming in from the government to infrastructure, I think now's the time to invest in saving our valley from a major tsunami flood. And that's what's going to happen. To me, the flooding in Solomon's Creek is just a warning shot. And the family that was devastated there, it could be the whole valley. And I think we need to really start thinking about the safety of this community and cleaning up that park once and for all and make it historically beautiful. And the National Homestead Association has been lobbying me for years to see why the city can't get organized and get that park restored, just like any other community would. Buffalo has seven sections in Olmsted Parks in Buffalo. Beautiful. And we have one of the most unique Olmsted Parks in the state, and it's a dangerous, flood-producing environment. So, Mayor, can you comment? Can you come for a tour of the park?
Are you finished with your presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
I think you heard what Mr. Frady explained before Dr. Reisinger called. We have been holding meetings with Forrester, Vinnie Catrone, and other people. Some of the things that Dr. Reisinger may believe are correct, we may believe are not. What I will do is I will talk to Butch Frady tomorrow, see if he feels that there should be a tour with the Army Corps of Engineers, and I'll bring that up tomorrow. But we have met with several people, and some of the feelings are that the natural growth that's there could hurt a flood condition because that helps to hold back the waters from going into other areas. So we have heard different positions on this also. I know Mr. Reisinger has been passionate about this for several years, before I was even on council. But, we've held meetings. But I will speak to Mr. Frady tomorrow, see if he feels that we should have a tour with the Army Corps of Engineers.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, please state your name and where you're calling from.
Hi, Jason Carr, Sailorsburg, Pennsylvania. I was just wondering if the mayor of Wilkes-Barre, George Brown, has sought the assistance of Mayor Lombardo regarding the reemergence of the city's downtown. When you drive through or walk through the downtown of Pittston, it's a vibrant, lively entity that makes you want to be there, believe it or not. Main Street in Pittston. There is a sense of entrepreneurship where people want to be there, either as consumers or as business people. There's very little public money that is being invested in the city because the private investors are taking it upon themselves. Has the mayor at all? The mayor is struggling with the downtown. According to the Diamond City Partnership, more businesses closed than opened in the downtown in 2021 under Mayor Brown's leadership. And as well, I'd like to congratulate the mayor of Scranton, Paige Cognetti, for bringing the city of Scranton out of its distressed status after 30 years. And as well, I was wondering if the mayor has reached out to Paige Cognetti to address the Wilkes-Barre city's budget deficit, structural at that, of over $2 million. Eventually, the ARP money is going to run out and you won't be able to tap into it anymore. As well, from what I can tell, at the last city council meeting, Mayor George Brown did not know how much money he actually spent from the ARP funds when he was asked. And I believe Sam Troy followed up with Charlie McCormick 3 days later asking the same question, and Charlie McCormick didn't know. So at this point, I was wondering if the mayor knows at this point how much money he spent. I believe, according to the documents from City Council, it's around $8.7 million. From the money that you've received, that leaves a little less than $10 million remaining. And I was wondering if the mayor could respond with how he's planning on using that additional $10 million, as well as the other $17.5 or $18 million that should be received as the other half from the federal government. Thank you so much.
Mayor Brown, do you have any comment? Okay, if anyone else would like to call on general comment, 570-580-1176. Okay, motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Okay,